Hey friends, and welcome back to Dish It with Des. I am Desiree. This is obviously a video podcast on this episode. I'm going to try to do this every once in a while to, just give my YouTube people something to look at other than my normal screen. So, today we are going to be discussing this Vanderpump Rules episode, which is the first episode to have aired post Scandoval. So I couldn't wait to watch this episode just because it's the first one after that information went public. I'm not gonna lie, if that affair didn't become public, this would have been a pretty boring episode. Not much happened, not much going on, no one's like fighting or arguing or anything. So without that information, it seems like a pretty standard no drama episode. But then once you start to factor in all of the stuff that we know now, it changed it for me a little bit. So we are talking about season 10, episode 5, Lovestruck at the Discopussy. This was the weirdest title ever. When I read it, I was like, what is this? But the club that they go to in Vegas is called Discopussy. So that makes a little bit more sense. All right, so this was a hard thing to watch because they always do those little clips in the beginning kind of showing like what everyone's doing, but then like they focus in on like the main clip after those couple of seconds, and it's Ariana and Raquel shopping for this Vegas slash Havasu trip. And knowing what we know now, this was really hard for me to watch because they seem so close. They seem like such good friends. And it's weird. And the fact that Raquel is so friendly and hid this information as well as she did, and just to be able to be hanging out. We're not talking like they're not really friends. Like you figure the dynamic between Raquel and Katie, they've never really been close because Katie and James didn't get along for such a long time, and Raquel was his girlfriend, so they never got close. Ariana has always been friendly to her. It was really hard to watch. So they're shopping, getting along great. Everything seems normal. And then we get this weird moment where it flashes back to the night before when Ariana, Katie, and Raquel had dinner. And Raquel, in that moment, had a confession for Katie and said like that she asked Schwartz to make out. And Ariana says something after that because she's the one kind of bringing up like, I really didn't expect you to like say that to Katie last night. And then she goes, and I have notes here because if I like to quote things like verbatim. So Ariana says to her, like, I just couldn't believe you said that. And all I could think was, am I about to be mad at Raquel for the first time? And that like broke my heart a little bit because it was like, she was thinking, am I going to be mad at Raquel for like the way she's handling this with Katie, not knowing what has been going on behind her own back. And it's interesting because Stassi, who is not on the show anymore, has a podcast. She doesn't talk about anything about the show on her podcast, and even said that she felt a little bit weird discussing this because she's been out of the scene of that show for quite a long time now. But she made a statement saying like, I wonder if now that production knows what's going on, if they're going to go back and re-edit some things or like go back with footage and kind of see if they missed anything. And Lala has like shut that down. She said like no. So like however the episodes like were already edited, they're staying like that. And then obviously this information will come out like during filming and then, after. But it's hard to watch like some of those scenes and not think like maybe they were re-edited, but they're saying it's not. I don't know. I feel like we're all going to have these little moments where it's like, was that edited to make it look differently or something? I don't know. They're saying it's not going to be, but it is TV. So I don't 100% know if I could trust just Lala saying, no, it's not going to be re-edited, because we're going to get to another part later on that I feel like, well, two things later on that I feel like I'm having a hard time thinking that something wasn't done in a way to make it look a different way. So after that, you see Katie. Katie has Christina Kelly back on the show. So if you watched earlier on in the seasons, like seasons 1 and 2 and stuff, Stassi and Katie and Kristen had this friend, Christina, and she was always just like on there kind of as a friend. She was never like an actual cast member. And I think Katie brought her back into the scene really for just moral support. I mean, she was going through a divorce, and I think that she just needed, a good friend on her side and to be there for her or whatever. So Christina Kelly's like back into the mix, and you see them hanging out. And the narrative with Katie is still that she's just so angry with Sheena for trying to facilitate a Raquel and Schwartz hookup or relationship or whatever it was that she was trying to do. Katie said that she wants to give Raquel a chance. She doesn't want to, not be friendly to her or not give her a chance to be a part of the group, post James or whatever. So she's like really pushing this narrative of Sheena is shady and she's trying to hook up Raquel and Schwartz and, whatever. But Christina says that she thinks that Katie is giving Sheena too much credit and that she sees through Raquel. So that was interesting to hear because Christina's been out of the mix for a while. I'm sure like on a personal level, not on TV, she maybe still sees people and stuff, but she was kind of like debunking Katie's thought process of this was all Sheena facilitating, and she thinks that Raquel had enough of that, on her own without Sheena pushing her. And I just thought that was interesting that she said she sees through Raquel and she doesn't think she's like this wonderful and nice girl that everybody thinks she does. And it was just like seeing into the future. In the next scene, I loved every moment of this because we see Lisa and Ken at their home hanging out with their grandson. So her daughter, Pandora, has had a baby, and I really enjoyed seeing Lisa in grandma mode. It was just so cute to see her like playing with a grandchild, and you could tell that she loves every second of that. And then her and Ken are getting into this conversation about the Toms and this restaurant, Schwartz and Sandy's, that they're supposed to be opening up. She's telling Ken that they're kind of struggling with the money aspect because the investor and partner, Greg, he's not paying the mortgage or rent on the building. The Toms are, and he doesn't think they're ready to open. And the Toms want to get open because they need to start making money. So she, brings this up to Ken, and she's like, I just want to help them and see what we can do so that they don't get stuck in a position that they can't come back from. So that was the conversation that was going on while she's playing with her grandson. And the next scene we go to is James and Allie, who is his new girlfriend, and they're meeting his mom for lunch. James and his mom have a very interesting dynamic. They both have had major drinking problems in the past, and his mom has been sober for a really long time now. James was sober for a while too. Raquel gave him that ultimatum when they were together. So, he wasn't drinking at all for a while, and now they're not together. And he wasn't drinking when he met Allie, but he decided that he feels okay enough to start drinking again. And the entire lunch was his mom, obviously. It was you could tell by every part of not only the conversation but the body language that she really isn't comfortable and doesn't like that he's drinking again. And that's going to be, I think, something that'll be interesting to see if we see her more or whatever, because James definitely seeks approval from his mom. A lot of people are even saying that his current girlfriend, Allie, looks so much like his mom. So we'll see what goes on with that, because the drinking gets brought up again later on. Then we see Lisa and Ken stop into Schwartz and Sandy's. So she says that they're going to dinner and they're in the area, and they figured they would just pop in, see what's going on with the place and how things are going. So they're sitting down with the Toms, and they kind of give them this offer that, because the Toms also have Tom Tom, a different restaurant that Lisa gave them this opportunity to be partners with her and open up a bar. So they had that, and Ken and Lisa were offering them the initial investment that they made into the business back if they needed it. Ken kind of just says like, if you get stuck and you need it, because Lisa was almost trying to sway them to maybe buy Greg out and take him out of the picture in the partnership. I feel like Greg is not going to be happy about that once he sees these episodes and stuff. He seems like a tough cookie and like he knows what he's doing. I mean, that's the thing, but I think at this point she was just trying to help them, and if they really get stuck and are pressed for money, that they could take their investment back and do whatever they needed to do with it. And then I think Ken said something like in a year, like partner with them again. I don't know. That aspect of like the business, I don't ever understand what they're talking about. So then we are starting to see everybody getting ready, the girls, to go to Vegas. Ariana and Tom are having a conversation like in their bedroom. In this moment, they seemed fine. Ariana's dog had some seizures the night before and has to take medication. I did catch a little bit of, I want to call it whininess from Tom, where he's like asking if he has to give her medication like while Ariana's gone. And she's like, yeah. And I don't know. They seem fine. That dynamic wasn't super weird between them. He just seemed a little bit whiny in that moment. Then we got to Lala and Raquel hanging out. Now I find this extremely interesting because Lala was always so mean to Raquel. When she started dating James, Raquel, Lala and James they used to like hook up sometimes, and I guess Lala, it was very early in her relationship with Rand, and then James and Raquel was early in their relationship, and it's now it's come out and everybody knows about it that apparently Lala and James were still like hooking up with each other in the early stages of these relationships. So it's interesting to see, and especially now after Scandoval, Lala is going off on like Raquel and Tom, and I have a hard time with Lala because she never seems genuine to me. She really flip-flops around with like who she's close with in the group, and she definitely starts a lot of drama. She's mean sometimes, and she used to be a lot worse when she was drinking. She is sober too, but she's still like, I just find her super hypocritical all the time. So to see her like hanging out with Raquel and being so like nice and getting along is just weird to me because they never got along, and she clearly hates her now. So I don't really think that she ever truly liked her. I think it was just like maybe she knows she has to film with her, so she was sucking it up. So like Lala is being like super supportive of Raquel, and post James breakup, and she like states that she's struggling with her breakup too, and like you see Raquel comforting her. And then she says, because they're talking about Vegas, they're about to go to Vegas. So she said, Lala says she just wants to make out with somebody while they're there. And Raquel says, hopefully there's enough men to go around. Which is so weird because we know she's hooking up with Tom, and like we know the season starts and she's going on dates with Peter, but says she doesn't really like Peter, whatever. And then she's like asking Tom Schwartz if he wants to make out, and hopefully there's enough men to go around in Vegas, and like all the while we know that she's hooking up with Sandoval. So I really think that Raquel was going hard this season to try to make it appear that she's really living this single girl life, and she's not. So then Vegas begins, and you see Lisa, because they're going to Lisa's newest restaurant that she's opened up in Vegas for dinner. And then there's Katie's mom lives in Vegas, so they're going to spend like whatever the night there. And then I guess they're going to Havasu later on. It wasn't in this episode. So you see Lisa like bedazzling her dog statues that are in the restaurant. And I love that scene. I love Lisa. So just seeing her putting like bows and these like big diamond necklaces around dogs' necks that are not even real was really funny to me. Then you see the girls in the room, and it's Lala and Raquel, and I think it was Christina Kelly, and they're opening up, and Lala's like telling Raquel to like come here and look, and they're opening up this suitcase, and they have a pinata of Schwartz they brought for like Katie to like beat, and Lala asks Raquel if she's turned on by the pinata of Schwartz, and she goes, "I mean, I'm not turned on," and then she says she's joking. It was just, that was super weird. I have no comment on that. And then from Vegas, we're flashing back to James and Allie. At this point, they're not at lunch with James's mom. They're getting pedicures. And they're discussing James and Lala hooking up early on in his relationship with Raquel, because Raquel, prior to this episode, one of the episodes back further, had like a little convo with Allie. She was finding like every opportunity she could, it looked like, to like pull Allie aside and talk to her, which is if you think of it, taking Scandoval out of it, Raquel seemed like really upset how quickly James moved on with this new girl, and she seems like a little bit jealous of that relationship and that he seems happy. So she asked Allie if she knew about that James and Lala hooked up early on in their relationship, and she says that James did tell her about it. So like for some reason that's still getting brought up. And then James says to Allie that he had lunch with Lisa, and that Lisa wasn't really super happy to hear that he's drinking again, and just hoping that he can keep himself under control. And she asked him how Allie feels about it. So he's bringing that up, and he's telling her that Lisa asked him if Allie likes James better when he's drinking or not drinking. And Allie says that she likes him better when he's not drinking. And James, in like a confessional, is saying that, he quit for Raquel. She gave him that ultimatum of that she didn't like it when he drank, and he pretty much did that for her. And he said it didn't get him anywhere, obviously, because she called off the engagement anyway. So he said that he's just like not going to be doing that, because if he feels like he has it under control. And I haven't seen him too bad yet. We didn't see it on camera, but when they were at Sandoval's show, Raquel did say that apparently later in the night, James and Allie like got kicked out for arguing, and he was being really loud and aggressive, but we didn't see that on camera. So on camera, I have not seen him acting as erratic as he used to be back in the day. And then we get this weird scene where you can hear someone crying in the Vegas hotel room, and they're like, "Who is that? Who is crying?" And it's Ariana, and she gets a phone call from the vet because her dog Charlotte, I guess, was still at the vet. She was having seizures and stuff, and it sounds like it's not good. They're saying that she just doesn't seem like she's fully there, and they're really worried, and they don't know what's going to happen. So she decides that she's going to leave Vegas and go home. Mind you, they just got there. Like it was like that day they got there, and she didn't even get to go out with them or anything anywhere. It's like they were just hanging out in the room, unpacking and chilling, and she decides she's going to leave, and all the girls are very supportive, and they say, "We think you would regret it if you didn't." She's had this dog for a long time, like half of her life. So this was like, now knowing that Tom has been cheating on her this whole time, and seeing this scene with her being so upset about the dog, like starting with that scene with Raquel shopping, and then this, and seeing her devastated because her dog is not doing well, was like, could we have had a sadder episode for Ariana as the first episode post Scandoval? Like, it was just really sad to see. So then she goes home, and I'm gonna I'm skipping a couple parts that happened after that, and then I'm gonna go back to it, because I think this is where I started to maybe pick up on something. So she goes home, and then later on we see Tom picking her up from the airport, and he is like a little bit douchey in the car. Like, this is her dog that she's had forever. She's clearly devastated over what's happening with the dog. And he makes this comment when he picks her up, like, "So are we just going straight to the vet?" And she's like, "Yeah, Tom, we're going straight to the vet." And I felt like this was the first moment where I maybe saw, like, Ariana looks annoyed. So that was like the first moment I would say I'm picking up on a different dynamic between them than we're used to seeing. In the past, Ariana has suffered with her mental health. There have been times that she's suffered with like body image issues. And we've only ever seen Tom being so supporting and so loving of her. So to see him being a little bit more distant and cold over this dog situation, which we know like normally he would be really there for her. This was the first moment that I picked up on where I saw a shift in the dynamic between them. But then how he's acting in the car, he seems kind of like rude. And then you flash to his confessional and he's saying that he's really concerned about her and he's just really hard like he's concerned how this is going to affect her. And then he says that he needs to be there anyway any way he can because that's his girl. And it's just like in the car, you're being pretty rude. And like he was almost acting as though like going to the vet was like such an inconvenience for him. Like when I say douchey, that's what I mean. Instead of being like how we would normally see Tom, like probably in tears and hugging her and saying like we have to get there right away. I feel like if their situation was in its normal state and not where he's having an affair behind her back, that was what we would have seen in that moment, and we definitely did not see that in that moment. And just hearing him say that in his confessional that he needs to be there for her because she's his girl, like no one believes you at all because we all know. So then back in Vegas, they're at Lisa's restaurant. Now, I knew this moment was coming because of all of the articles that I read. And I also watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I knew that Garcelle's son, Oliver, was going to be making an appearance. And this was like WTF because we know Oliver from Housewives and Garcelle's been saying how good he's doing. He's had a troubled and rocky past. So he was married and has a kid, and then he's a server at Lisa's restaurant. And Lala is definitely into him. She met him before, and she says like she remembers like meeting him before and like thinking he was hot. And it was insinuating. He said like he was meeting them all for the first time, so it's obvious that he doesn't remember meeting Lala. And you could tell she's kind of annoyed by that. But she is like drooling over him. And he says that he is separated. And I don't think he was at that moment. His ex-wife, I believe they're divorced now, so I'm saying his ex-wife, has said that when that episode was being filmed, he 100% was not separated. I don't think he was probably either. I don't think Oliver is the most stand-up guy. So you see Lala, you could tell she's really feeling him. Like, you can tell that if he gave her any attention, like, they would have been hooking up that night for sure. But from all the previews and articles, we know Raquel ends up making out with Oliver that night. Then you kind of have, like, the battle of Lala and Raquel. You can tell they're both feeling him. So at dinner, it's the girls, Raquel, Lala, Katie, and Christina Kelly. And then Katie's mom is there, and so is Lisa Vanderpump. And the narrative is still Raquel and Schwartz. It gets brought up again, and they're talking about that. And Katie's mom kind of steps in because I guess she feels as though Raquel doesn't really understand what she was doing when she was like wanting to make out with Tom. So she feels the need to stick up for Katie, and rightfully so. That's her daughter. So she, says like, you might think she's fine, but you're not getting the phone calls of her crying. And you have to remember they have a house together that they now have to sell. And there's so many layers to this divorce. And pretty much saying like Raquel was wrong, which is fine, I guess. But at least Schwartz is divorced. So that would have been the better time to go for. I know Katie would be upset about it, but like you're divorced, so you can't really be upset. Where now we know, like with Sandoval, like he's in a relationship, so that's way worse than Raquel wanting to make out with Schwartz ever would have been. Then they are going to the club. So they go to Discopussy, and Oliver shows up because they invited him out. Lala and Raquel are both trying so hard. You're seeing this conversation between Oliver and Lala where they're talking about their kids, and she's telling him about her custody battle. So it's like it's Lala, Raquel, and Oliver. Like, so you see Raquel in the middle, and Lala's like trying to like talk behind her, and it's just so funny because I feel like Lala has this weird competition with Raquel because of James. So I feel like she was really trying to like get the attention on her, and it wasn't working because he says he's separate again. They're talking about their kids, and then Raquel says to Lala that they go up to the bar, and she says she feels a little bit awkward because she wants to hook up with Oliver, but she also could tell that Lala was feeling him. And Lala says Raquel is in competition mode. I feel like I saw Lala in competition mode more than I saw Raquel in competition mode at that moment. And meanwhile, while that is going on, Katie and Christina Kelly are up at the bar, and it was kind of nice to see Katie giving her number to a guy at the bar. And all I could say was the dude looked like a straight tourist. He had like this outfit on where he had like this hat. And I always feel like that's how Schwartz kind of dresses. He always looks like a tourist, like in every scene. And it was so funny because like she gives her number to this guy. Like face wise, he didn't look like Schwartz, but like style wise, they had a similar style. So I liked that though. I liked that she gave her number to a guy. And I think that was nice to see her, especially following that conversation where her mom was like sticking up for her with the Raquel situation. It was nice to see her giving her number to a guy. And then we end the scene with Raquel and Oliver making out. Lala is definitely jealous. You can tell it's written all over her face. But here's the thing that I picked up on with this scene. Did this scene look super edited to you? Like normally with reality TV, we always have it where it looks like they're filming and like, the people are just being themselves. They're making out, and this was like movie editing. They were like, the camera was like panning around them, and they had this music, and it was in like almost like slow motion. That scene felt like it did not fit in to the episode because of the editing. So this is where I'm starting to think, like, did someone on production know what was going on? I'm not going to say that Tom and Raquel went to somebody in production and said, hey, we're having a full-blown affair. But I'm finding it hard to believe with some of these scenes that, like, somebody maybe wasn't, like, in tune to what might have been going on. Because that scene with her making out with Oliver was so weird, and the way it was edited was odd. And then my friend Ben sent me the photo. Like whenever Vanderpump Rules is coming out with a new season, they always have everybody in the show like kind of set up on like the bar with LVP in the middle and everybody else. And I'm actually going to pop the photo in. Look at this dynamic with Ariana in between Raquel and Sandoval. And Raquel and Sandoval like kind of looking at each other behind her. Like, I know that when they're doing these photo shoots, production and photographers are guiding them on what they want them to do. I find it hard to believe that they were trying to cover this up, that they would have been looking at each other like that without being prompted to do it. I don't know. I don't know if I fully believe that like somebody didn't know something. Now, with hearing all of the cast's reactions to the situation, I don't think the friend group knew. But I don't think that it was completely hidden from everybody, even if Sandoval and Raquel weren't aware of that. Because just the way some of these scenes are starting to feel edited, and like I said, Lala is saying that they're not going back and re-editing stuff or going back and sorting through footage to see if they miss anything. She said that they're not, but I just felt like the narrative of Raquel being like on dates with Peter and then Schwartz and then making out with Oliver. I don't know. I don't know if it was just her going so hard trying to like deflect from what was really happening, or if production was kind of pushing for certain things to really make us like, what was going on? It is TV. So I think that production maybe was doing it on their end, like deflecting from that situation so it would have more of a shock value. So then after the episode, this was like a Watch What Happens Live episode that everybody was looking forward to, because after this episode aired, right? So this was the first episode that aired post Scandoval becoming public. And after this episode, Andy Cohen has LVP on. Now, I definitely thought that they were going to talk more about it, and I understand why she doesn't say too much, because she wants it to play out on TV. We all know that. Like, they don't want to say too much because it is going to play out, and they don't want to ruin that for everybody. They want everybody to see it as it's airing. So a couple things that she said that just stuck out to me. Andy asked her how she felt when she found out. Gobsmacked. She said gobsmacked, no words. She didn't see it coming. Then he asked her how Ariana's doing. She said she's devastated, obviously. And then he's asking her like about Raquel and like, did you see this coming with her? And you know her? And she said that she obviously does not know who Raquel is. And she hopes a reunion will bring some clarity to the situation. And then he asked her, do you think that Sheena really hit Raquel? And she said she thinks she slapped her around a bit. So we have heard that Raquel has put a restraining order on Sheena. And we've heard from Sheena's friend and other people saying that Sheena did not hit her. And Lisa's saying she thinks that she slapped her around a bit. So again, we still don't know what's going on with that, but it's going to be an interesting reunion if somebody has a restraining order on somebody else. And then on Sheena's podcast, she had Lala and Kristen, and Sheena said they are all going to need to be in cages, because Lala was saying she feels like security is going to be amped up a little bit at the reunion. And Sheena says they all need to be in cages because that's like how bad it is. And it's interesting that she had Kristen on her podcast, because I heard that Kristen is filming, which I don't know how I feel about that. Honestly, I was as ready for Kristen to go as I was for Jax to go. So to hear that Kristen is filming again is just like, why? Like, I understand she's Tom's ex, and I know that she's being there for Ariana, but I don't know. I'm not ready for Kristen to be back. And then I also still have this feeling about Schwartz, because Andy Cohen has said that he felt like when the Toms were on recently that there was a weird energy between them, almost like Schwartz was looking to Sandoval for answers. And now the question is Sandoval says that Schwartz only found out just recently and did not condone his actions. I think that Schwartz has known longer than they're saying. I do not think Schwartz knew in these episodes that we're seeing right now. In the moment where Raquel asked him if he wants to make out, he turned her down and said that he was really just trying to think of Katie in that moment. But we know later on that they do actually make out at Sheena and Brock's wedding. So I do not think Schwartz would have done that if he knew that Sandoval and Raquel were hooking up. I have a feeling that it was after that moment that he made out with Raquel that maybe him and Sandoval had a talk, and Sandoval told him. But there was also, and I forget when this interview was and who the interview was with, but I think it was sometime in February. Schwartz had an interview with some sort of press, and they're talking about the Raquel kiss at Sheena's wedding. And he said that Sandoval, and this is prior to this being public, so he said Sandoval was really pushing him to make out with her, and actually said he'd be a wussy if he didn't do it. And that's where I really do not like the dynamic between the Toms sometimes, because Sandoval I think he really used Tom as a pawn in that situation, and kind of peer pressured him to make out with Raquel just to deflect from the situation again. And they're best friends. And as a friend, I wouldn't be cool with someone doing that to me. But Schwartz is a little bit of a pushover, and I think he gets steamrolled by Sandoval a lot. So that was it for this episode. You know, like I said, I thought in that beginning scene with Tom and Ariana, I thought Tom seemed a little bit whiny, but I didn't see much between them that was like a really weird dynamic. It wasn't until he picked her up from the airport that I really felt like he was being just like kind of standoffish. He wasn't really being empathetic to her in that situation. And normally he would have been. And we know that. We've seen their dynamic before and it's always been good. So, I just think that this was like just the worst episode to have been aired after that, because seeing her shopping with Raquel and hearing what was going on with her dog really just dug the knife even deeper. But I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Honestly, let me know what you guys think about that photo, that press photo with them looking at each other like that, like behind Ariana. I don't know. That made me, now that I'm looking at it with the information that we know now, I hate it. I hate everything about that photo now. And I never even caught onto it before. And I've seen that photo prior to this and like looked at it, and I didn't catch on to that until my friend sent it to me and was like, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen that in the past, but I didn't notice that until now." And it was just weird. And I really do think production was on, I think somebody in production was starting to pick up on something. And the Oliver makeout being like super edited, and I don't know, it was a weird episode. And I would say that it was weird even without Scandoval in mind. There were just moments of it that just felt off. And like I said, too, if we didn't know about that affair, this would have been such a boring episode. So it's just weird that it played out like that. And this was the one episode that ended up airing after that became public. So that was it for this episode. Let me know what you think. I cannot wait to see the next one and to continue to try to dig deeper into any dynamics that we see going on with anybody that might be a little bit off. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.